In the world of medicine, the next huge breakthrough might not actually come from a test tube. It might come from a line of code. Today, we're going to dive into how these pharmaceutical giants are dealing with an absolute flood of data to build something called an analytics engine. And this engine, well, it's changing everything about how they discover, develop, and deliver life-saving drugs. This is really a story about turning total chaos into incredible clarity. And really, it all boils down to this one simple but incredibly complex question. In an industry that is literally drowning in information, how on earth do you find a one critical insight that actually matters? I mean, how do you connect a single data point from a clinical trial in Tokyo to a supply chain problem in Germany to make sure you get the right medicine to a patient in Ohio? That's the giant puzzle we're going to piece together today. So here's our game plan. First, we need to get our heads around the sheer scale of this data deluge these companies are facing. Then we'll walk through the blueprint they use to get it all under control. After that, we'll get under the hood of the analytics engine that does all the heavy lifting. And finally, we'll answer the big one. What is the multi-million-dollar payoff at the end of all this? Okay, let's jump right in. The very first thing you have to understand is that for pharma companies, the problem has never, ever been a lack of information. They are absolutely swimming in it, more today than at any point in history. The real challenge, the hard part, is making that ocean of data actually useful. You see, as these organizations moved from these neat but separate paper files and siloed systems to all these interconnected digital platforms, they basically unleashed a tidal wave of information. But look, just having access to data and actually being able to act on it, those are two completely different ballgames. And this isn't just one nice, clean stream of data. It's a torrent coming from every possible direction. You've got this incredibly complex data from clinical trials. You've got real-world evidence from how patients are actually doing on a drug out in the wild. You have moment-to-moment updates from manufacturing lines, global supply chain logistics. And now, you even have data streaming in from personal patient monitoring devices. Every single one is a critical piece of the puzzle, but they all show up speaking totally different languages. So, how do you turn all of that multilingual chaos into a powerful competitive advantage? Well, you need a plan. You need a meticulously detailed strategic blueprint that's designed to transform all that raw, disconnected data into a reliable, actionable asset. And this whole transformation journey, it unfolds in three key phases. Phase 1 is all about laying a rock-solid foundation. That means having a clear strategy, strong governance, which is basically just setting the rules of the road for how data is handled, and clean master data, making sure there's one single trusted source for all critical info. Only then, once that's in place, can you move to Phase 2, building the actual engine for real-time analytics. And finally, Phase 3, you fortify this priceless asset with world-class security. All right, so with that foundation poured and set, we get to the really exciting part, the analytics engine itself. And this isn't just about creating some fancy dashboards that show you what happened yesterday. No, this is about building a system that can proactively turn an insight into a decisive action, like right now. And a key piece of this magic is something called prescriptive analytics. Think of it this way. Older analytics might predict that a certain patient in a trial is at high risk for a bad reaction. And that's useful for sure, but it's kind of passive. Prescriptive analytics goes a huge step further. It actually recommends a specific action, like suggesting an adjusted dosage or flagging that patient for closer monitoring to try and prevent that bad outcome from ever happening in the first place. It's really the difference between just seeing the future and actively helping to shape it. Now, what's really interesting here is watching how this engine comes to life over time. This timeline shows it's a really rapid and escalating process. I mean, just 3 months in, the system is already deploying models to detect drug safety issues. By month 5, it's predicting the outcomes of entire clinical trials. And in less than a year, by month 10, it's capable of powering personalized medicine recommendations. That is an incredibly fast journey from just basic data to profound real-world impact. And this just brilliantly illustrates the real-world results. So, clinical trials are one of the most expensive parts of developing a new drug. Why? Well, a huge reason is enrolling the wrong patients, which can cause a trial to fail and waste hundreds of millions of dollars. By using analytics to optimize patient selection, to find the perfect candidates right from the start, companies can slash those costs by a staggering 30%. That's not just saving money, it's making the entire scientific process smarter and more efficient. Which, of course, brings us to the ultimate, multi-million-dollar question. Building this entire data infrastructure is a monumental undertaking. So, after all the time, all the money, all the effort, Was it actually worth it? Okay, first, let's be really clear about the scale of this bet. We're looking at a total program cost of somewhere between $14 and nearly $29 million. That is a massive corporate commitment. So what exactly does that kind of bet buy you? Let's break down the return on that investment because the numbers, they're pretty fascinating.
So the payoff starts with security, an 80% reduction in data breaches. Now, in an industry built on patient trust and protecting intellectual property that's worth billions, that's not just a statistic, it's a fortress. It's the absolute foundation for everything else.
Next up, speed. A 25% acceleration in getting a drug from an idea in a lab to the shelf at the pharmacy. Just think about what that really means. It means potentially life-saving treatments are available months, sometimes even years, sooner than they would have been otherwise. That's huge. And this one, wow, this is the number that really changes the entire industry, a 40% improvement in the success rate of clinical trials. The brutal reality of medicine is that most new drugs that enter human trials fail. It's incredibly difficult. So to boost the odds of success this dramatically, it changes the entire economic and, more importantly, the medical equation of drug development. So here it is, the bottom line. You have that huge upfront investment, yes, but the return is a 15 to 30% improvement in core earnings over 5 years. The financial case is crystal clear. The data revolution pays for itself and then some. It's a no-brainer. But at the end of the day, this is about more than just the money. As this analysis concludes, this transformation is really about getting ready for a future that is fundamentally driven by data. It's about building a smarter, safer, and faster system for creating the medicines of tomorrow, while always upholding the highest standards of patient care. And that leaves us with one final, fascinating thought to chew on. Now that data is truly the new cornerstone of the pharmaceutical industry, powering personalized treatments and predictive care on a scale we've never even seen before, what do you think is the next great frontier that this whole revolution will unlock? Where do we go from here?